All right, so here we're gonna do, this is the first video to help you with Unit 2 coding. So remember that we wanna open up a new script by going up here and pressing the plus sign. For these notes, I'm gonna ask you to upload the college football data set. So remember to import, it's import, always the top one. We go to OnRamps data. And then for the notes, we're going to do college football data. For the work, you might need a different one. UT will tell you what they want you to open. Yes, should always be checked. It should automatically be checked, but if it's not, double check. And then I can name this whatever I want. So I'm just going to call it football, so I don't have to type college football data over and over and over. So I'm just going to call this football. Then I'm going to press import. And you see that it brings up my data. And then I have to go back, just consider those like computer or web tabs. You can just toggle back and forth. So now I got to go back to my script so I can actually type. And the first question I want you to try to answer is make a data frame of teams who scored at least, 35 points. Now, if you're watching the video, obviously you can pause it, try to do this by yourself and see if we get the same answer. Or you can just watch me do it, whatever's easier. So make a data frame of teams who scored at least 35 points. So first we need to go to the data set and say, well, what variable up top will tell me how many points did they score? So we've got rank, school, games, and points. So if I want teams that scored at least 35 points, I know that I want to use the points variable. And at least means I want that the points to be greater than or equal to, because at least equal to is okay, greater than or equal to 35. Okay? So we're going to make a data frame, and it's at least 35, so I'm going to call it over 35. Call it whatever you want. Remember that when we're making a data frame, you give it a name, and then after you name it, you do an arrow, and it's called the assign key, but you do an arrow facing the name. So we called it over 35, we made an arrow, and now it's dataset, bracket, dataset, money sign, and the variable we are concerned with is points, right? Because we want at least 35 points. So we want the points, and if we want it at least 35, we want it to be greater than or equal to. In Unit 1, we just did equal to. It was like gender equal male. So if it's just equal to, you do double type the equal, and here's why. Is because if we want it to be greater than or equal to, we need to put, instead of both of them being equal signs, one of them needs to be a greater than sign. Okay? And we want the points variable to be greater than or equal to the value of 35. And then we need our lovely comma. Now in Unit 1, we did discuss that most of the time you're going to put it in quotation marks. But since this is a number, numbers should be blue and not go in quotes. If you're typing a word like team equal Alabama, you would put the word Alabama in quotation marks because that's a word. But numbers should be blue and not be in quotes. So you see that in over 35, there are 17 observations. So there are 17 teams that scored at least 35 out of the 130 in my data set. Okay. Second thing, and this is the only other thing we're going to do, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to make a histogram to show our new data frame average rush yards per game. Okay. So we made a group of people that scored over 35 points. There were 17 people in there. Now we want to learn how to make a histogram of this group to show what is their average yard. So to make a histogram, the command's fairly easy. So to make a histogram, you type hist and parentheses. So to make a histogram, you type HIST. And then just like when we did stuff in Unit 1, inside those parentheses is always data set, money sign, variable. Data set, money sign, variable. So since I said of your new data frame, the data set is actually over 35. We're not going to look at the original football data because I asked you to make a group first. So the data frame we're concerned with is the group that we already made. And if I want a histogram, is data set, money sign, variable. So the data set is over 35. And the variable I asked you to look at is average rush yards per game. So that would be rushing average. You can press enter. And then you can press run. And you see my histogram. And if you want your histogram to be bigger, you can always drag it so you can see it a little better. And then based off, because see when it's small, you can't really see it. Or if you get margins too large, that means you've made that too small. So when we look at this histogram, we're going to make histograms because they're going to ask us specifically what shape are certain things. This is honestly not a great histogram. It's more skewed than normal, but remember your options are left skewed, right skewed, or approximately normal. So the way coding is going to work is we're going to make a group, we're going to make a histogram, and you're going to tell me is that histogram normal or skewed. And then we're just going to repeat that process over and over. So in this case, I would call this graph right skewed because it is closer to right skewed than normal. But again, I don't want to make this video too long, but you're only going to learn 2 things on this first lab. You need to be able to make a new data frame, which is just review, and you need to make a histogram of your data frame. So hopefully we can do that now.